So welcome everybody. We are going to start the parallel session theme 3 and topic 2. And the topic is designing for effective learning using digital technology. And we have right now 4 speakers from around the globe. So they will present their topic from different areas. And if you have any question, you can present your question through the chat window through the Vertex. So I'm inviting right now our first speaker, and our first speaker is Dr. Ganesh K. And he's working as an assistant professor in the Department of Electronics and Communication and at Bapuji Institute of Engineering and Technology, India. So his engineering interests include image and video processing, embedded system, digital signal processing, and speech processing. He is the main driving force behind Project Avishkar, which is an initiative by E-Avishkar Foundation that aims to educate the rural Indian students of different age groups about science, technology, electronics, and robotics. So Dr. Ganesh, please proceed with your presentation. You have to unmute, Dr. Ganesh.
Yeah,
share your slides. Yeah, it's audible. So please share your slides and you can start your presentation.
Sure. Thank you. So whether the shared screen is visible?
It's visible.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for giving the opportunity to present in the Global Virtual Summit 2022. Mainly I'm dealing with the digital technology for the transformational education. Just a minute. Yeah, so this is my background. I am the assistant professor in the Department of Electronics and Communication, Bapuji Institute of Engineering and Technology, Davangere. I have the teaching experience of 12 years and I have submitted the thesis and waiting for the Viva. And I have conducted the workshops on different subjects like the image processing, video processing, as well as the STEM education, as well as the digital transformation. So these are the interests. Coming back to the transformational education, what we are talking about, this is somewhat interesting to know because transformative education involves the teaching and learning process. It is geared up to the motivate and the empower the learners to take the informed decisions and actions at the different levels, like the individual, community, as well as the global levels. So this is the definition of the UNESCO about the transformative education. So it has to deal with different levels, like the individual, community, as well as the global levels. So the learning environment that we create has to have all these ecosystems so that a person will become the global citizen. So there is another ambiguity that we have to deal with because we are having the educational transformation or the transformational education. So educational transformation, it refers to the systemic changes in the prevailing educational model and distinguishing itself from the theories that defend the reforms or renovations of some elements of the model, maintaining the substance of the traditional teaching and learning process and its organization and structure. So it is given by I had taken it from the strategic elements to implement the profound changes in learning. So this is the definition for the educational transformation. So there are two things that we have to deal with. One is the educational transformation, which is systemic, which is dealing with the systemic changes in the prevailing system. as well as another one is the transformational education, which is doing the transformation of the whole scenario. So there has to be a paradigm shift. So what are the things that need to be there in the new era of the education? Like, let's say the education 4.0, like the industry 4.0, we are having the education 4.0. So there are different things, the major trends in the uh, education 4.0, like the a more personalized learning and more remote learning opportunities, and a range of the educational tools, then the data at the fingertips, then easy and the accurate assessment, then project-based learning, one of the major parameter in case of the education 4.0. So coming back to the first one, so more personalized learning is required. So the teaching learning process has to evolve in such a manner that depending on the person's ability and multiple intelligences the person is having, the mode of education, mode of teaching has to change, or the teaching learning has to change or adapt so that it is inclusive. Okay. And we are having, because of the COVID, we are having the more remote learning opportunities. More digital tools have been evolved in these 2 years of the COVID, and we are having the educational tools as well as the data at the fingertips, and easy and accurate assessment because of the digital pedagogy which has been followed now, and the project based learning and the inquiry based learning, which is the heart of this education 4.0. So how the individual transformation has to be there. If you look at that scenario, then we can consider so many domains in which the individual transformation has to happen. So it has to have a digital domain, then the social domain, then the spiritual domain, then psychophysical domain. So if the transformation is happening in all around, then we can say that the holistic transformation is happening. So it has to happen at the individual, community, as well at the global level. So at the individual level, we are talking about the digital, social, spiritual, and psychophysical. So because of the COVID, all the things have been put on the internet. So the learning has become anywhere, anytime, any device. So that's why it's called the AWATAD, that is awaited, you can call it as. And STEM education as well as the STEM ecosystem is important for the digital technology. Okay, so STEM education requires the interactive digital lessons as well as the applications. And one of the organizations like the Learning Undefeated has aligned with the Spark 101 to create the hybrid STEM education ecosystem. So that is actually having the interactive digital lesson bundles, career snapshots, at home learning, as well as the videos. So we are having a range of things that are available. So like this, at home science, for example, all the things that can be done by the K-12 students with the everyday materials, or the mobile laboratories. Okay, mobile laboratories means you can take the two things into consideration. One, let us say we are having the buses and carrying some models to the parking lots. One thing. Second thing, building some of the applications in the mobile so that it can reach the large number of people. Then the anywhere lab, that's what we have talked about, the anywhere, everywhere. So the learning is happening. So as well as the career snapshot, the 1 minute video, which will introduce the students to the different fields. So we are having another one thing, the tech stacks is a combination of the software, programming languages, frameworks, as well as the data storage technologies. For example, the student who is at the high school level may be trained, may be given a coaching related to the programming, so that they can become the very good programmers. Programming is not just related to the computer science now. It has actually the vast area of the importance in different areas. So that's why the programming becomes necessary. Like the student can be equipped with the facility to learn the Kotlin, just like the Google platform for the creation of the Android application, or the Python. So all these are the different things the students must be available, or the learners must be having the availability to these technologies. Then digital tools we are talking about. Then I will categorize into three parts. One is the virtual simulators, second one is the STEM applications, and third one is the course or the content we are talking about. So the virtual simulators, so if you talk about, then we are having the, just a minute. Yeah, virtual simulators means, let's say I will take the example of the Government of India Virtual Labs initiative. This is available at the vlabs.co.in. So it is encompassing all the engineering streams, almost all the engineering, major core engineering streams, like the electronics is there, computer science is there, electrical is there, mechanical, civil, biotechnology, chemical. So the students will be, or the learners will be able to learn, simulate, practice, as well as self-elevate. So these are the digital tools that will help them to uh, get into the virtual environment and then learn. So why it is so special? Because each and every person will not be having the world-class facility. So that's why the virtual environment, it becomes more and more inclusive. So if I click on this, so whether the shared screen is visible to you now, maybe post.
Yes.
Whether the link, whichever I have clicked, whether it is there.
No, I think it's not visible. Like you did not embed the video, right?
Yeah, just a minute. Just a minute. Yeah, now I have shared. Yeah. So this is the initiative of the Ministry of Education.
No, but we cannot see anything. We can just see your slides.
Yeah. Now
Yeah,
it's there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
there,
I
yes.
think if it is there.
Yes, please go on.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So this is the portal through which the virtual labs are actually there in different electronic in different engineering domains, like this, the electronics and communication, computer science. So many are there. So premier institutes of India have joined hands together to make this a reality. I will take one example and show it to you how it will be helpful for not only for India, for any of the global citizen. Uh, just a minute. I will take the basic electronics virtual laboratory. So if you just go to the list of experiments, you're having all the experiments that are being listed. Let us say I will go to the VI characteristics of a diode, one of the simple experiment. So the students will be able to do the simulation like this and get the output. So this is one of the simple example that I am talking about. So this is a simple simulation. So they will be having the facility to plot this also. So for example, they can plot this. So all these things are visible. Okay, so the VI plot is directly accessible. So they can check how the values are changing. Okay, so it is this is actually one of the experiments in the electronics, the forward biased silicon diode. Okay, so there are a range of experiments which are available in the website. You can just go and check it.
Please try to finish by 2 minutes, okay?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, another one example is the virtual simulator from the one of the German university. So this is the Lab Alive. And there are another two major important applications I wanted to bring it to the audience notice. So one is the MIT App Inventor, another one is the Scratch. So these are actually the game changers for the new education. So through the App Inventor, you can create the Android application as well as the iPhone application in a very easy manner, as well as using the Scratch. The learners will be able to create the stories, games, animations, and you can share it with the people. So these are the two game changers the MIT is offering. So what are the challenges? We talked about different things. So what are the challenges? Designing the digital pedagogy for the teaching learning, as well as the integrating the technology enabled teaching learning into the curriculum, as well as a learner specific mapping of the digital activities for the better learnability. And for all these things, for the STEM applications, again, the major challenge is the development of the iPhone or the Android application or the AR VR based application. For this, somebody has to fund. So either the governments have to fund, or the NGOs have to fund, or the corporates have to fund. So it all depends on the funding in these areas. There is another one major concern. An estimated of the 3.7 billion people on the earth sorry, are actually not having the access to the internet. So half of the world population is not connected to the internet. So without the internet, they cannot progress, they cannot learn. This is one of the major concerns that we need to address. So we talked about all the digital technologies, as well as we are having the different applications like the PHET in the physics, as well as in the chemistry applications in the STEM. In the STEM itself, we are having a range of applications for the different domain. The students or the faculty can actually experiment on these things, but there are limitations. What are the limitations? The students will get addicted to the machines. Okay, so the man has to control the machines, but the reverse will happen. The machines will go on controlling the man. So there has to be a balance between that. So the digital distraction is one of the major thing that we need to address with these implementations, as well as the digital dilemma, which applications to open, which one to install. So there will be a dilemma. So there are certain limitations, as well as how many hours one can use these technologies. That is also one of the limitation. Then what is the benefit? For example, hands-on learning, better visualization. For example, we cannot show the solar system to a student on the board, but we can use the Google Cardboard and make the visualizations very attractive. Okay, real time. So that is one of the interesting thing, as well as the affordability. So with the simple technologies like the Google Cardboard, we are able to showcase the virtual world to the students. So this is one of the major things. So this is very affordable, around maybe in $100, maybe in $10 we are getting that, less than $10. As well as the accessibility to the technology is also very easy, as well as the automation. So with all these things coming to the scenario of the education 4.0, the digital technologies, then it will be helping for the industry 4.0. So with this, I want to conclude my talk. I am open to any questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ganesh, for your nice presentation. And since we don't have, I can't see any question here. I think we can move to our next presentation.
Okay.
And our next presenter is Dr. Amy Kaplan. She is currently teaching in the Division of Professional Education at the University of the Philippines, Visayas. And she has been in the field of education for almost 30 years, and both having experience teaching in the Philippines and did in the Middle East also. So currently, she is running a blog called Infinite Possibilities. So Dr. Amy Kaplan.
Hello, everyone. I would like to thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, it will be great if you can make it full screen. Yeah. Perfect.
Yes, it's in full screen now. So thank you so much, Salikum, for that very kind introduction. And I would just like to give you a notification that I am not an engineer and I'm not an IT person. I am a teacher and I'm an English teacher who made use of digital technology to, bridge the gap on collaborative learning and banish the sense of isolation during the time of the pandemic among my learners, among my students. So the title of my presentation is Social Distancing, Challenges and Collaboration in the Use of Computer-Mediated Learning Experienced by Selected Students in the Master of Education in English as Second Language course during the time of the coronavirus. Okay, so let me give you the background of the study. Of course, during the start of the pandemic, there was a shift. No, everybody was scrambling for, what method to use, what digital technology to take advantage of, in order to continue the learning process with the learners or the students. So there was a shift in the learning among higher institutions due to the pandemic, and everybody was attending or, into webinars on how to upgrade the skills, the technical skills, in order for us to continue our classes on the virtual level. And it upended the lives of both the teachers and students due to their unpreparedness. So we suffered during the shift to remote learning modality, and I term it as computer-mediated learning. So according to Opelio in 2020, there were woes of students that that the leading universities in the countries recognized, such as having difficulties with internet connectivity, and for teachers with maintaining harmony between the office and home life. And then for Grand and others in 2021, they confirmed that there was indeed a sudden and unexpected shift of the higher educational institutions to this new learning modality where computer-mediated learning, it's a new and yet already familiar way of the teaching and learning experience, set in motion the use of various tools and strategies to ensure the continuity of the learning process. Now, due to these problems that I encountered, I decided to conduct a study. The purpose of this preliminary study was to discuss the challenges experienced by the participants in the CML mode, to identify the manner of peer collaboration in a CML setup, and then to determine possible means by resolving these challenges and strengthening collaboration among the students. These objectives were actually founded on the notion that students could reflect on their learning experience during the pandemic. And it has been supported by Gibbs in 1988, regarding the importance of reflective thinking and learning as part of the constructivist process, stating that it is not sufficient simply to have the experience to learn, but to reflect on this learning. Now let's go to the methods that I used to conduct the study. Of course, the design is descriptive qualitative. I used the thematic analysis as promoted by Braun and Clark in 2006. I know that the thematic analysis is an ongoing process of reflection as well on the part of the researcher. And of course, the corpus that was used was the answers to questions pertaining to the experiences of students on computer-mediated learning environment. My respondents were the graduate students in the Master of Education English as a Second Language program. These were selected students in my class. And of course, being adult learners, they were not coerced. So I asked for their free and informed consent before I started the data gathering. So I explained the features of the CML as well so that they would have the leveling off of what CML means. I coded the data, extracted the sub-themes, and of course, formulated the themes. So these were collated, categorized in a matrix, and two validators, of course, analyzed the results and gave some feedback on the changes. Now, with regard to the findings, these are the themes on challenges. Okay, so it answered the first objective, tackling the challenges experienced by the participants. And these are the following themes: intermittent internet connectivity, unfamiliar online tools and effective gadgets, dwindling motivation, emotional and mental health, limited interaction, environmental distractions, physical wellness, time management, and access to learning resources. Of course, since I already got the themes, I also included here in the presentation the sub-themes and the sample verbatim statements. So under the intermittent internet connectivity, they had problems on missed discussions, inability to finish class, and of course, the location and the weather will also factors in that difficulty or in the challenge. Theme 2 dealt on online tools and gadgets, which involved outdated phones and devices, subpar devices like laptops and their computers, and of course, the inadequate technical skills. The third theme is on motivation. They felt hopeless over passing their course because they could not submit all their requirements on time. And of course, they were worried about the deadlines. The fourth theme is on emotional and mental health. They experienced sadness and disconnection from their peers. They had anxiety attacks and they were overwhelmed by the requirements asked by their teachers. There was also limited interaction. So they were not able to interact well with their peers and with their mentors. And when they interact, the time was limited. Theme 6 was on environmental distractions. Okay, they felt that when they're at home, they were comfortable, so they tend to doze off or fell asleep. The websites as well, created a distraction because they would tend to go to the websites and, just surf. And then there were also different types of neighborhood noises that distracted them from their studies. Theme 7 was on physical well-being because they had physical discomfort like eye strain or headaches. They also had mental fatigue, and of course, the neighborhood noise also contributed to that mental problem. Now, on the theme 8, okay, the time management, they had to do a juggling act. They had to balance between work and studies, and family, home, and studies. And of course, they did not submit on time because of these other responsibilities. Theme 9 was on access to learning resources. They had no access to the library, the physical library. So they said that learning facility was inaccessible, and they found online sources as unreliable. On the themes of collaboration, which answer the second objective, okay, the themes are the following: the use of online applications and tools, adjust to peer schedules, and they provide mutual peer support. So under here, of course, they had to create chat groups using Facebook Messenger and many other apps like Viber and WhatsApp, and they used video conferencing whenever they had to discuss some tasks and topics. The second theme on collaboration is that they lent mutual support. They were willing to understand and motivate their peers. They shared and participated, and of course, adjusted their schedule so that they could accommodate everyone. The theme on adjustment to peers' schedules. So they made sure that they were available at the scheduled time. They considered the schedule during weekdays, and they had to know the schedules of their peers as well. And they said that it was easier to collaborate because they had familiarity with the schedules. Okay. From those findings, I found that for the third objective, as to what can be done, no, when it comes to pedagogical design, when it comes to enhancing collaboration using computer-mediated learning, I found out that this could be used. Okay, like for example, for Wayne, Fan, and Davis in 2004, they suggested ways to tap into CML collaboration, such as giving opportunity for students to know one another at the beginning of class, and then assigning a facilitator per group, accessing learning resources, okay, and then brainstorming and discussing ideas, reporting class participation, and resolving conflicts or misunderstanding. Now, these finding was also underlined in Broom's work in 2003, which said that the function of mediated communication as a medium of learning indicated that it is utilized to interact and collaborate among higher education. And of course, Goitler in 2009 said that computer-mediated learning, in fact, stimulate cooperation and interaction because of its flexible and accessible features. So here, the emerging conceptual framework is that the foundation of the technological proficiency, collaboration, and pedagogical design to deliver the teaching learning process using computer-mediated learning is based on the 4 tenets of the outcome-based education, which includes the 4 power principles like designing down, clarity of emphasis, high expectations, and expanded opportunities. So from Dr. Spady's work, I could combine all of this as a researcher and a teacher to make use of technology, especially digital technology, even when we go into the new normal of blended learning, because my students could still access their tools, their resources, and other media. They could use both synchronous and asynchronous modes of learning. And of course, they could enhance their technical skills whenever they make use of the digital technology. For collaboration, they need to interact with peers regularly through tasks and discussions. They could, have group leaders, okay, and many other roles, so that each one is given the responsibility in the group. And then synchronizing schedules to ensure the presence of the group members. Now, for the pedagogical design, I have made use of the Jigsaw Method teaching strategy, where students, of course, interact and collaborate in their tasks. And then the OBE principles may be applied during the construction of the curriculum or the courses. And of course, the adult learning principles will also be considered, since they can learn independently, they can be autonomous in their learning experience. The constructivism, which also promotes collaboration, and of course the research-oriented learning approach, which was conceptualized and introduced by Dr. Divina Gracia in 2021, where students can really go into research, okay, using the digital technology and collaborating with peers. Okay, now one of the pedagogical implications that I got from my study was to do a comprehensive audit of CML tools, which I adapted from Goitler in 2009. These are a summary of tools that may be used during the collaborative process of learning. The descriptions are here and the uses. Of course, each of these tools are really, really useful and helpful in delivering the lesson. In the university, for example, we have the learning management system, which can be used asynchronously. And this is, this has a feature on forum, which is used in exchanging of ideas and collaboration between mentor and learners and among peers. There's also the use of Zoom whenever we want to do synchronous lessons for virtual lectures and presentations. And of course, the ever helpful Facebook Messenger, which we use asynchronously or synchronously for class communication. Okay, and this is also used for sharing of learning materials such as files, links and photos, and for updates and reminders regarding the class tasks. So other tools may also be used like Google Drive, where students can store their files.
Sorry for the interruption. Please try to finish in 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you so much, Salikum. I'm almost done. And of course, you have the online applications and software where students can interact synchronously with the teachers for activities that require quick response mechanism. Google Sheet is also there, the YouTube photo and video editing applications. The PowerPoint is very popular, and of course the Word where which they use to write their essays. And of course there's websites or online sources or the virtual library where they can do their research. So here are my references, and thank you very much. Maraming salamat. I'm now ready for your questions.
Okay, thank you for the nice presentation. So have you published your work? Or
yes, this has been published. This has been published, and I'm sharing this now because, the times now are different. And I think that we need to be hybrid teachers as well if we want to be successful in the teaching learning process, in transforming education within our school and within our classroom.
Okay. So any questions? Okay, so I think we can move to our next presentation.
Thank you, Salikum.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the nice presentation.
Thank
It was very informative. Okay, so I'm inviting our next presenter, Megan Kohler. Megan, before your presentation, I'm saying that. Megan, you are there? Okay, so will it be possible to convert Muazzem as a host? I think he got disconnected and Zoom converted you automatically as a host, if possible.
I think that is Amy. I think Amy's the host.
Okay.
I'm looking in the participants panel and she's currently listed as the host. So perhaps she can give permissions back to Muazzem.
Okay, so Dr. Amy, will you please convert Muazzem as a host?
Okay, let me just do that right now.
Okay, so we are moving.
Okay, it's done.
Okay, thank you. So we are moving to our next presentation, and our next presenter is Megan Kohler. She is a learning designer and speaker focused on supporting neurodivergent learners and establishing collaborative design dynamics. So she is passionate about helping higher education professionals and understand the skills and abilities of neurodivergent learners and supports educators in designing neuro-inclusive learning environment. So she is a dedicated volunteer with the Online Learning Consortium, and she has served in various leadership roles with Accelerate Conference, including conference co-chair, program co-chair, and chair of presenter services. So Megan, yeah, you can continue with your presentation, please.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. I'm so honored to have the opportunity to present to all of you today. My session is titled Designing for Divergence, Strategies for Creating Neuro-Inclusive Learning Environments. And as I was just introduced, I'll just go ahead and sort of skim through this, but I am a learning designer at Penn State University, and I also have my own consulting firm, Megan Kohler Consulting. And I actually happen to be the parent of a child who is neurodivergent. So as you can imagine, this topic is something that I've become deeply invested in, both professionally and personally. So what is neurodiversity? Well, in case you've never heard that term before, Neurodiversity refers to the natural variation of cognitive abilities presented not only within our society, but also within our classrooms. And there's two recognized populations which really contribute to that variety. And they are neurotypical and neurodivergent. So neurotypical individuals are considered to have normal brain function or cognitive abilities. And I'm going with the clinically approved terminology here. Neurodivergent individuals, on the other hand, they're really a group of individuals whose brain functions differently from the rest of the general population. And it's really important because it's estimated that up to 30% of the individuals in our classrooms, both online and in residence, can have a condition considered neurodivergent. And it's also important to know that many of these individuals do not actually have an official diagnosis, which is why these conditions are often referred to as invisible disabilities. So what classifies as neurodivergent? Well, neurodivergence is most commonly associated with autism, but as you can see from this slide, there are many types of conditions which are neurodivergent. Now, I want you to know that this is not a comprehensive list because the medical profession is continually learning more about how our brains function and the various conditions that arise from our natural variances. So this list is going to continue to evolve for some time. It's also important to understand that these conditions present themselves differently in every individual, which is why we often refer to them as being on a spectrum. And the way that these conditions present themselves may be more severe or less severe, or a person might have multiple diagnoses or conditions, but really the combination and the presentation of the symptoms are unique from person to person. In fact, there's a saying that goes, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And that really speaks to the notion that we are so highly individualized. Now, unfortunately, individuals who are neurodivergent have historically been viewed as having limitations, deficits, or disabilities. But the neurodiversity movement actually seeks to change that because there's actually many benefits of being neurodivergent. And on this slide, you can see a number of those benefits, such as increased IQ, being highly innovative, excelling in creative or artistic activities, and much, much more. Neurodivergent conditions can be both acquired or genetic. And while we don't fully understand the exact cause of all the variations, we do know that the differences in the brain function manifest themselves through the executive functioning skills. Now, executive function is an umbrella term for our working memory, our cognitive flexibility, and our inhibitory control. And these three areas play an essential role in learning and academic achievement, knowledge acquisition, metacognition, and self-regulation. Our executive function skills begin developing around the age of 2 and are fully developed by the age of 30. But individuals who are divergent can be delayed in that development by up to 30 to 40%, which, as you can imagine, presents a number of challenges for these individuals when they're trying to succeed in their academic environments. So let's take a closer look at all of these. We're going to start with working memory. So working memory is our ability to select behaviorally relevant information, to maintain it, and to reference it when it's appropriate to make decisions about how we're going to act in the world. Our working memory is usually limited to a matter of seconds. And once that information is lost, it cannot be retrieved. So once it's gone, it's gone. It's not coming back. Working memory impacts a student's ability to navigate the social world. It impacts our ability to provide detailed explanations of why we think a certain way or to explain our perspectives on something. And working memory impacts our decision-making and problem-solving skills. Lastly, working memory is responsible for developing our fluid intelligence, which refers to problem-solving without requiring any prior knowledge. So let's take a look at this in context. I would like you to meet Ashir. Ashir is an intelligent young man currently in his second year attending the local university, and he is majoring in computer science. He enjoys computer work as it really provides him with a sense of fulfillment. And when he's working on writing a new program, he feels a sense of calm. And that's something that's actually really difficult for him to achieve. He constantly feels restless and he has difficulty concentrating. Throughout high school, he was always told that he was a poor student, and he only decided to go to college because of his parents' support. But he was bullied severely because he fidgets a lot and he struggles remembering simple instructions and he has difficulty following through on tasks. Now, to support individuals like Ashir who have challenges with working memory, we can apply a couple of strategies. The first is sequencing your steps of instruction. Break information down into manageable chunks for your learners. Provide one concept at a time, and make sure that all of your students clearly understand that concept before moving forward. You also want to provide a clear explanation as to how the concepts build on one another to ensure students have a comprehensive understanding of the information being presented. Similarly, you can offer guided practice opportunities, not only as assignments, but also as activities for students who may be struggling with certain concepts. Doing so is not only going to support your neurodivergent learners, it's also going to help your neurotypical students as well. You can use graphic organizers or concept maps to help students better understand the connection between concepts. And you would actually walk your students through those visualizations, ensuring that you're explaining it and how the concepts tie together instead of leaving students to develop their own understandings of those connections. The next area we'll talk about is cognitive flexibility, also known as shifting. It refers to our ability to task switch or to change our thinking or perspectives quickly and easily. And it's oftentimes in response to the environment or a situation or some other type of stimuli that we encounter. Cognitive flexibility is important because it allows us to differentiate between important information and unimportant information. It allows us to think about challenging situations or problems from a different perspective. It helps us organize our thoughts. Making connections between different concepts can sometimes be challenging. It can also impact our time management and our ability to prioritize tasks. And this also impacts our ability to transition from one activity to another, or when we're talking about a classroom context, transitioning from one topic to the next topic. So let's take a look at another case study. I would like you to meet Amber. Amber was diagnosed with autism at a very early age. Fortunately, this allowed her parents and her teachers to gain an understanding of how she thinks and what she needs in order to be successful academically. Amber actually wants to be an architectural engineer because she's brilliant with numbers, model building, and she loves patterns. In fact, Amber would much rather stay at home working on creating a new model instead of going to the movie with her friends. Now for Amber, routines are important because they help her keep focused. If she knows and understands what's going to happen next, she can think more clearly. If the routine, however, is deviated from, she's going to become agitated really easily and might not be able to focus as well. Amber also benefits from having focused choices presented to her. Too many options create sensory overload, and she can begin to feel overwhelmed. She often relies on support from her parents, her advisor, and her friends to help her stay on track with her coursework. To support an individual like Amber who might have issues with cognitive flexibility, we can apply a number of strategies listed here on this screen. So you can begin by offering the choice to work in groups or as individuals. And this strategy is valuable for students like Amber because it allows her to work with a peer in order to stay on task. But it also offers students such as Ashir the ability to work independently, which is a more comfortable dynamic for him. Microlearning is another great strategy to implement here. So you can incorporate supplemental microlearning opportunities for students in order to be able to take a deeper dive into topics that really interest them. And these bite-sized learning experiences provide small and focused learning opportunities that are not going to overwhelm them, but it's also going to allow them to feel a real sense of accomplishment once they complete them. Completed assignments is something that can definitely support students as sort of that positive reinforcement that they are achieving and moving forward in their learning journey. And the last strategy that you can think about implementing here is creating assignments that are meaningful and increase the ability for students to reflect on the learning and the assignments. So self-reflection actually helps students take a step back and evaluate the assignment or the interaction. And that's going to help them facilitate more meaningful experiences for that learner, because it's requiring that self-reflection that really helps them with their inhibitory control responses. And that's actually going to lead us into our final point that we're going to discuss today, which is inhibitory control. Now, it is a major contributor to our educational performance, and it refers to our ability to hold back an action, especially when it feels automatic or rewarding in some way. Delays in the development of inhibitory control can have a significant impact on students because inhibition is actually one of our most used cognitive functions. It's essentially how our brain regulates our behavior, especially in social situations or social dynamics. Issues with inhibitory control can be seen when a person continually shifts their focus or gets easily distracted when they're trying to complete a task. It impacts our ability to manage our time effectively, or also known as procrastination, and I'm sure none of us here are ever guilty of that. Inhibitory control also allows us to regulate our behavior and to prevent impulsive actions, such as interrupting others or refraining from making bold statements or sometimes hurtful comments to other people. Meet Mei Huan. Mei Huan was diagnosed with ADHD, combined type, and anxiety at a young age. Now, prior to entering college, Mei Huan was a confident, outgoing, happy young lady, but trying to fit into the standardized expectations of academia really changed her. In order to suppress her emotions, she started hurting herself, digging her nails into her arms, biting herself in order to contain her outbursts. And Mei Huan is a very intelligent young woman, and she's aware of her actions. But even though she knows that they're not appropriate, she just can't stop herself. For Mei Huan, being timed on anything is crippling to her ability to do a task. She likes information to be introduced in novel or hands-on ways. And she likes to think out loud because she really needs that space to verbalize through working through problems. She also needs structure and clear expectations, both in academic settings and at home. To support students like Mei Huan, give them time to process information before coming to class. This not only allows the students to properly prepare, but it can also help prevent involuntary outbursts of emotion or severe anxiety. If the agenda does need to change for some reason, be sure to provide students with a notification that the intended plan has changed, and be sure to provide details on what the modification is going to be in order to realign students' expectations. Increase the wait time when you're posing questions for a response. And this is a great in-person strategy. So Mary Bud Rowe found that after an instructor asks a question in class, they typically only wait about 0.7 seconds before they begin speaking again or calling on a student. So increasing the length of time to anywhere between 3 to 5 seconds is going to allow your students the time to process the information and to think more deeply about their responses prior to speaking up. And this can be highly beneficial for both neurodivergent and neurotypical students alike. And I do want to bring out one special point here. If you choose to implement this strategy, make sure that your students know that you're giving them extra time to process that information. Otherwise, standing at the front of the room for 3 to 5 seconds with no communications could be a very awkward experience, both for you and for your students. And the last strategy here, go hybrid. By using a hybrid or a flipped model, you can allow your students to learn in environments that are more comfortable for them to focus in. So students with sensory issues might find it easier to focus in environments with less distractions or less concern for social interactions. And it will give them a space that they just feel more comfortable in. Now, there's a few technologies that you can use for supporting neurodivergent students, and these include Boost, which is an outcomes-driven notification system. It helps students stay on track with their course assignment, and it also integrates seamlessly with Canvas. Asana is a task management tool that can be recommended to your students. It will help them capture their assignments as tasks, and then to view those tasks in a variety of ways, depending on their preferences. It also has a nice calendaring feature which can help them more effectively manage their time. Canva is a great tool for creating infographics and other graphic organizers. Canva has a large number of ready-to-use templates and icons and images that can really easily be plugged in order to create customized resources. Brainscape is a flashcard app which supports student learning through spaced repetition and concept mastery, which is one of the reasons why I love it so much. Students can create these flashcard activities and then set the app to remind them to study. As a student demonstrates proficiency of certain types of concepts, the app then adapts to those students and it helps them focus on terms that they have not attained mastery of. And I want to take a moment that all of these technologies that I've just mentioned here do have free options available, so completely unpaid versions, which students and you can actually access and use to support your teaching and learning practices. And that wraps up my portion of today's panel session. Thank you so much for your time today. And if you'd like to stay in contact or hire me to speak at your event, or if you want to follow along with my research, the primary methods for staying in contact with me are here on your screen. And again, thank you so much. And I hope you all have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Megan, for your excellent presentation. I have a question. So it seems that we need some kind of special attention or special methods for every single students, right? Because their types is different. So is this possible in regular schools or regular universities, like to track them and provide them that kind of attention?
Yes, there's actually, I was just listening to a webinar a few weeks ago, and this institution in particular, something that we have here in the United States is personalized education plans. And that is a fantastic way that when students are transitioning from high school into academia, they can bring those IEPs with them and share them with their faculty, with their advisors, in order to help faculty know and understand what their specific learning needs might be. So I think that that's definitely a great strategy, but it is really a challenge, especially as we continue to see the enrollment numbers continually increasing in higher education. And there's so many limitations on what we're able to do and how much we're actually able to interface one-on-one with our students. But anytime you can find the opportunity to connect with your students one-on-one and learn more about them, I highly encourage it.
No, because especially we need to then train the faculty members also, right?
Yes, absolutely. And one thing that I think I didn't have time to go into this in today's presentation, but one thing to be aware of is that research was recently done, and it basically communicates the fact that many individuals in administrative perspectives or administrative positions really view neurodivergent learners as disabled and as a group or a community that need to be dealt with, as opposed to really supported. And I think that there's a very significant dynamic or a paradigm shift that needs to happen regarding that. And I know that there are a number of researchers out there who are working towards developing new policies and procedures in order to be able to better support neurodivergent learners, because they really are amazing and truly remarkable individuals. And they bring so much to the table when we're talking about innovations within our field and creativity and thinking outside the box. That's exactly what neurodivergent learners excel in.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your excellent presentation.